Welcome back, dancers and parents. After last week's episode with dance photographer Eva Neese, I thought it would be fitting to jump into the world of Instagram. We had the wonderful opportunity to speak with Eva last week about ways that you can make the best out of your photo shoots, things to bring, ways to make sure that you're mentally prepared. And all ultimately are going to end up being photos that you probably post on social media at some point. And I thought that it would be great for us to kind of dive into the other side of using social media and how to get the most out of it. Today, I'm going to share with you some of the ways that I've learned over the years to make social media, and specifically Instagram, work for my life. No, I am not going to talk about how to make money, how to feel popular, or even how to take the best photo. I'm talking about how to use this crazy, validation-driven, unrealistic social platform to uplift and inspire ourselves. Because let's face it, Instagram is fun and it can make our world a better place when we use it with intention. We're going to talk about how to get the most fulfillment out of your Instagram experience without spending hours of mindless scrolling. I am on Instagram every single day. I conduct most of my business off of Instagram, and I have lived a life of spending way too much time in the digital world that means nothing in the real world. So how do I stay on Instagram and enjoy its beauty, enjoy the people that I've met in my life that have come through Instagram, enjoy the feeling I have of giving something to the world through my Instagram, and also walk away with my cup filled and instead of depleted? That's what I want to talk about today. How often do you walk away or put down your phone from an Instagramming marathon and you feel like you haven't done anything, or you feel worse about yourself than when you started? It doesn't make sense because you're looking at what you think is a very carefully curated group of photos that, quote, should inspire you to be a better person. So, what is going wrong, and why are you walking away feeling less than? I think it's because you have given up your control to this device and you haven't realized it yet. You are in control of your experience on Instagram, and I'm going to give you some ways to make sure that you are. Number 1, turn off your notifications. How often do you feel overwhelmed or like you have to pick up your phone when you see it light up or a notification comes on the screen? We've somehow let our friend the phone dictate what we do. Technology is winning. All of the shows and books and movies that talk about technology taking over our society and ultimately winning in the end, it's already happened. Your phone has more control over you than you might realize. I have realized it for you. You're welcome. So the first step in having a positive and uplifting experience with Instagram is you deciding how much time and energy you're going to spend on the gram. I was recently sitting in a cafe and I heard a cell phone ding, the sound your phone makes when you get a message or something or a notification pops up. And I kid you not, I looked up and there were 4 couples of people in this cafe that were already in fully engaged conversations with friends or colleagues, and they instantly stopped their conversation, dropped what they were doing to pick up their phone and look at a message. Well, of course, only one of them had a message, and they didn't even do anything about that message. And I laughed out loud because these 4 coupled people were deep in conversation with what I assume is a friend, colleague, or someone that they obviously value enough time to sit in a coffee shop with and take time out of their daily life to be here. And a single ding made them stop. This reminds me of when we clicker trained our dog. Yes, I'm comparing us to dogs. So if you don't know what clicker training is, it's this little thing that literally just goes click, click. That's the sound it makes. And when a dog hears it, when they're trained to, they will do a certain command and they expect validation or a treat by hearing that sound and doing the task. Well, Apple and Android have trained us like dogs to jump at a moment's notice of a notification to sound and expect that there will be a social validation of someone or something wanting or needing us on the other side of that ding. I heard a study that looked at the brain of a cocaine addict They looked at how the drug affected his brain and watched as he consumed the drug. Then they looked at the brain of an average adult while they were on their phone and receiving notifications. The part of the brain that was lighting up for both the drugs and the notifications were the same. Now, I am not sure how valid this study was. Please don't quote me. And I don't know where it ended up going in the future, but it did prompt my own little social experiment. Turn on your cell phone volume, and when your phone dings, don't pick it up. Don't pick it up. I quickly realized I felt like I needed to pick up my phone. Now, I do not know what it feels like to consume cocaine, and neither should you, but this highlighted how out of control I felt when it came to my phone. The social validation that you get by having a notification, by having a ding that needs you, is similar to the endorphins that might be released when they're looking at a drug addict. I think that's pretty fascinating. I also heard that the average cell phone user could receive over 600 notifications a day if allowed. 600. Guys, I am not that popular, but between social media, texts, emails, Apple Watch alerts, screen time alerts, weather, banking, and so much more, I can see how you can end up with over 600 notifications on a shy day. I have never had notifications on my phone except for text messages. I think that started as wanting to stay in a little bit more of a simple time, because when I got back from Israel, that was the boom of smartphones. Somehow in 1 year, everyone that I knew had gone from having a not smartphone to a very smartphone. I still wanted to hold on to my handy dandy chocolate. If you're old enough to remember that, I had a blue flip chocolate and I loved it. And when I got back from Israel, everyone had their smartphones. By the way, when I was in Israel, I had a phone that I got for just emergency calls, not calls to talk to my family or my friends, just simply to have an emergency line. And it was a Nokia brick. And again, if you are too young, you may not remember this. In fact, most of you may not remember this unless you're a parent. But imagine a brick and put it next to your ear. Yes, that is a Nokia brick. It had just numbers, a green button to call, a red button to hang up, and one button in the middle to scroll up and down for your contacts. That's it. When I got to Israel, I remember thinking, ugh, how archaic. I wanted my chocolate phone back. How am I going to survive without my chocolate phone? Well, very quickly, guys, I adapted. I would forget to take it places. There was no one to call because everyone I knew was literally in yelling's distance and could hear me, and I would often run out of battery. I think it was an amazing setup for the smartphone revolution for myself, because when I got back to the US, I didn't want a smartphone. I went about 6 months without a smartphone. I went back to my chocolate, which was gorgeous, and only when my phone died and there was no other option to upgrade except to a smartphone did I make the leap. By the way, I think it's insane how quickly that little revolution happened, and I really noticed it because I had been out of the country. So coming from the frame of mind of less is more, and probably wanting more community with my friends and to be able to talk and chat in person and not over the phone, I set all of my notifications so that I only got a text and a missed call, and I have stuck to that this whole time. That has stuck for 9+ years, and I get comments sometimes from friends, especially people that know I run a lot of my business from Instagram. They say, "You don't get notifications on your phone?" And I'm like, "No." And they say, "Well, how do you know when somebody's trying to contact you?" I smile and I say, "That is the point. I do not." I felt such a sense of pride in knowing that I wasn't being controlled by my Instagram or my iPhone until 1 week I had multiple evenings in a row that I went to bed feeling anxious over things that were running through my head, activities, questions that needed to be answered, and people that needed responses, and I couldn't fall asleep. It was then that I realized I indeed was being run by Instagram. By me taking my phone to bed and feeling like I had to respond to any DMs or comments that had just come in, I indeed was letting this silly phone and this platform run my life. I also realized I was letting social media follow and dictate my timing and my life. One thing I've learned from being in business, which I would like to pass on to you, is that there is no such thing as an Instagram emergency. We've been trained to feel like the dings and pop-ups and direct messages, comments, all need to be handled at the moment that you receive them. Even at 2 a.m., if you roll over and happen to look at your phone and you see that someone's direct messaged you, you feel like you need to answer it. One of the things that I've learned is that people will take as much as you're willing to give. That's not a bad thing. It's human nature. But if you train your friends and your followers to expect a response from you instantly, that's what they're going to expect. And you will build this unprecedented desire and need to respond instantly, even though there is no such thing as a social media emergency. I heard this on a podcast by Melissa Urban, and it really struck home as something I wanted to share with you guys. 99% of you use Instagram for fun, to stay connected with people, inspiring photos. You may be thinking, I don't have a social media emergency. I don't run a business. I don't have enough followers or anything to consider an emergency. I want you to notice over the next couple days, though, how you respond to notifications. What feelings bubble up inside of you? How quickly do you jump to get your phone? And if you notice even a pinch of this feeling or anxiety that could bubble up, you and your brain have slipped into the emergency mode. So by turning off your notifications, you are giving yourself some power back to decide when and where you use this wonderful yet can be overwhelming and overtaking platform to aid your life. Your notifications are all calls to action, something that needs to be done. And all of us want to get our things done in the day so that we can take time to relax and enjoy the people and things we want to. Just so happens you've made a self-imposed call to action by taking your notifications and pop-ups every single time you get a comment or a direct message. Turn off your notifications for all social media completely and try it for just 1 month. Are you ready to keep going? I promise by the end of this podcast, you're going to feel excited to love your time on and off the gram. So number 2 is set social media time boundaries. Setting boundaries for when you're going to pick up your phone in general is a great way for you to feel more in control of your social media life. You've probably heard this before, but the worst times to pick up your phone and do anything on your phone is the first thing in the morning and about an hour before you go to sleep. How many times have you rolled over and your alarm has gone off, you turn off your alarm, and then before you know it, you're stuck on your phone answering messages, you're on Instagram, you're checking out what's happened, you're seeing who's liked your posts, looked at emails, blah, blah, blah. Me too, guys, all the time. This is a huge habit that I'm still working to break. It's so easy to let my phone tell me when I should be looking at it, especially if I still have notifications on. Here's my tip that I've been working on, and it's been going great. I started to set my phone on Do Not Disturb mode from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. That gives me the window of time that I would like to be off of my screen before I go to bed, about an hour, and it gives me time when I wake up to not be bombarded by messages yet. Do Not Disturb is going to keep all of the notifications and all the things from popping up on your screen and telling that you have something to do. So at 8 a.m., my Do Not Disturb goes off and my emails pop up, my text messages come in from overnight, client messages pop up, calendar shows me what's to be done today. And note, though, I do not get social media notifications. So even in all that, I still don't get those social media ones. Setting a morning routine that gets me ready for my day and feeling grounded before I jump onto my phone has made a huge difference. I've had lots of friends and people tell me how wonderful they feel doing a morning meditation routine. I've tried so many times and it's just not for me. I don't find it myself relaxed. I find meditative times while I'm driving. I choose not to listen to music most of the time when I'm driving and choose to focus on something in my life that I want to put my energy towards. So that driving time is my meditation time for me. Mine is closing my eyes, of course. I've tried for years to have a morning routine like other people did without success. But what I started to notice a few years ago is that I did indeed have a morning routine. I used to wake up 20 minutes before I had to go out the door, just enough time to put my hair in a ponytail, mascara, coffee to go, and fill my water bottle, walk out the door, and just enough time for traffic. I did this for years and years, probably from the time I was in high school until about the age of 25. With a little bit of convincing, I started waking up an hour before I had to be somewhere. It was hard, but I did it. At the time, my morning routine included my getting ready. I would get on my phone, I would do some social media stuff, and I would get ready for my day. But my morning routine I set for myself was that I had to wake up an hour before I left, no matter what. My only exclusion to myself on this self-imposed rule was that I was working at Lululemon at the time, and in the back room, we had to be there sometimes before 4 a.m. I did not wake up an hour before that. After a couple months of this morning routine, I realized my days were getting better. I felt more alert when I went to work, I accomplished more, and I felt ready for new challenges. So I decided to push it to an hour and a half. That meant that I got even more time to be lazy in my eyes. I would make my coffee, I could sit on the couch, fiddle on my phone, and mentally prepare for the day. So I had set a morning routine without knowing it. It wasn't a meditation of sorts, but it was my own personal morning routine of choosing. Then I started to grow my following on Instagram. I would wake up an hour and a half before, I would get my coffee, I'd go sit on the couch, I'd twiddle around on social media. But now Instagram had become more of a job because, one, I needed to spend more dedicated time on it, on marketing, on deciding what I posted, and curating pictures. And two, I had more people to respond to, comments to comment on, messages in my inbox, people wanting tips and tricks. This is when the timing of social media really hit me. I needed to dedicate time to when I was going to get on social media and have nothing else going on. And for me, because it was leaving me feeling rushed and hectic, I wasn't feeling centered, I wasn't feeling peaceful, and I decided to implement the no social media in the morning rule. I would wake up an hour and a half before I had to go, drink my coffee, answer my emails, and I'd get ready for the day, but no social media. It was totally working. Then I hit the next phase in my life and business, and life got busier. My client schedule started overflowing, thankfully. And the time I had set aside to work on the computer and social media to build my business was getting pushed to early mornings and late evenings. And once again, I had to change my morning routine. I decided to wake up earlier and spend 1 hour no phone at all. I have a coffee in my hand, I do my breakfast, I talk to my boyfriend, I get ready for the day, and in an hour after waking, it's time to get started on my day. This is where I am now, and I have scheduled out my morning to include my new time, and it doesn't include you guys. I love you, but it doesn't include you. This has been a great morning routine and has worked for quite a while now. Now, looking at the nighttime, I had similar things happening, except I realized quite early on that I cannot talk business after 8 p.m. I get grumpy, especially if it has to do with technology, like figuring out my website or issues, or future ideas that are going to require too much time, or once in a while, a difficult experience at work or a comment on Instagram. My boyfriend and I figured this out quickly, so sometimes we will say, oh, it's past 8 o'clock, no business talk, and it just works for us. Then I had to implement the no phone after a certain time at night, and this is one I am still honestly working on. I find it difficult because, again, if I've had a full day and there are things I need to attend to, there's emails I need to respond to, especially now that I have an online course. There's messages from friends and family. There's clients that need to be responded to. Sometimes I've gone all day without looking at social media. So my current solution is that when I get home from work, I don't take my phone up to the bedroom. I do it before I get upstairs. I take care of all the business, all the social media I want to or need to before I go up to bed for the night, and then my relaxation time starts. I've put on my do not disturb, and I do my very, very best not to look at the phone. I'm not perfect, but this is the next step of me controlling my own time. Now, if you are a younger listener, maybe younger than 21, you're probably thinking, I don't have work. I don't have those time requirements. I'm using social media to enjoy myself. You guys, I have younger siblings. I work with teenagers 24/7. I know that you guys waste time on your phone. So my recommendation for you is to figure out when you're going to let yourself get on social media. I recommend you don't get on first thing in the morning. I also recommend you don't get on right before you go to bed. If you see something right before you go to bed that doesn't inspire you, or a friend said something that they shouldn't have and it hurts your feelings, or you saw a post that's riled you up because it's a cause that you really believe in, or even you saw that you're going to be doing something with your friend this weekend and you're just so excited about it, now you can't sleep. You have totally changed your sleep pattern because of being on this phone and rallying yourself up for something. Just last night, I came home from my day and I was so exhausted. The type of exhausted that when your head hits the pillow, you just are instantly out. So my head hit the pillow. I was blissfully falling into sleep. And the thought that I had to finish this podcast came into my head. Dun, dun, dun. Guys, I love this podcast, but work crept into my head. And within seconds, I felt myself fall out of sleep. And I sat there for about 15 minutes trying to convince myself to be as tired as I was before. This is exactly what happens to your brain when you are looking at your screen and your social media right before you go to sleep. Even if you think you need the stimulus to make you be sleepy, I know what you're thinking, but that just happened to me is what happens to you when you get on your phone right before you go to bed. And none of those things had to happen right before you went to bed. Remember, there is no social media emergency. I own a business and I can still count on less than one hand how many social media emergencies I've had. I live by a high school, and because we're in California, it's an outdoor high school, so the kids are walking around outdoors. I giggle every single time I see them out in between their classes because they're with all their friends, and most of them have their heads down texting, using social media to tag each other and, quote, sharing their experiences they're having right now instead of talking to their friends. If you're a younger one here, I realize this doesn't seem odd to you because it's what you've grown up with, but I'm going to tell you with loving tenderness, it's weird. You'll get more satisfaction in your life and out of your real social interactions instead of just tagging or stickering or making boomerangs that prove you were somewhere. So maybe something you can try is that you don't pick your phone up in between classes at school. Maybe you say you're only going to check it at lunchtime. I suggest you make a guide for yourself when it comes to homework. I resonate with this one 100% because I work on the computer and often have to look things up on my phone and very quickly can get distracted on social media, Instagram, messages that are coming in. I've had the intention to only get on and look up an Instagram handle, and 8 minutes later, I realize I'm scrolling through Instagram, answering comments, seeing what my friends are up to, and I just wasted 8 minutes of my life. And you guys, those 8 minutes add up. Now, because I work with teenagers, remember, I spend my day working with teenagers. I know you guys have a lot of homework. I know you have a ton of dance. I know you want to hang out with your friends and your family. I know you want to do things with them. I know you want to sleep. I know you want to go out on dates. Little bit of tough love. You have more time than you think if you are allowing yourself to have your phone near you while you're studying. So this leads me into number 3, which is removing your phone. Sometimes I just need to move my phone away from me. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm still finding myself mindlessly scrolling sometimes, and I get distracted by the gram. The easiest way I avoid this is yet the hardest thing I have to do with my phone, and it's move it completely out of the room while I am doing my work. I sometimes turn my phone completely off, which I know you might realize means it might explode. Don't worry, it won't. I'll also put it in a bag in another room, and I'll commit to myself that for the next fill in a blank time or whatever I decide, I'm not touching it. Schoolwork, computer work, reading, time with family, whatever it is, this applies. I know some of you are thinking, so I don't want to do that. I don't need to do that. You can't tell me what to do. You're right. I can't. But I can tell you that this is a huge time suck on your life when you're not aware of what you're doing. So back to the notifications being in control of you and setting the time that you choose to interact with your phone, not letting the phone run your time. There's going to be times in your life that you could be more fully invested in your people, and you should. Your people are the ones that are behind the likes and follows, right? One time I was babysitting my 11-year-old cousin who had gotten in trouble before I got there. He had had his video game taken away, and he had a royal meltdown. And you know what the meltdown was about? He said that he wasn't going to be able to play with his friends. His dad has taken away his video games, not grounded him. So I kept pointing out that he can go play with his friends. Please go to your friend's house. Please go play outside. You're not grounded. The meltdown grew in proportion, and he just could not see and wrap his brain around the fact that his friends were there to play with in person, even though he wanted to play on Fortnite. And he didn't understand in his little 11-year-old brain that he would get more joy and be more satisfied out of being physically around his friends and playing with his friends than if he was talking to them through a headphone using technology. This happens on social media all the time. It happens to us all. We forget that these are real people that we're connecting with and that they could just maybe be real people behind the screen. It's amazing. So setting the time and really thinking, do I need to be on my phone right now? You are giving yourself the opportunity to make better friends, to connect on a deeper level, and to open up to new possibilities. When I go on dates with my friends and I don't take my phone out anymore. I hate when my friends and I used to get together and we both would put our phone right on the table, and we weren't rude enough to really get on the phone, but when it would go off, we'd look at it and then put it back down. But neither of us need to do that. There is no emergency at this point unless there's something crazy dictated that calls for that. Most of the time, I don't need that. So now at this point, I put my phone away and I don't pull it out until I get back in the car after I've been with my friends. And you know what? Some of the best opportunities have come when I was having interactions with strangers. That means that if I had been standing in the grocery line hanging out with my phone mindlessly scrolling, I wouldn't have made eye contact with that stranger in the next line, who then turned out to be a casting director, who then turned out to get me an audition, and so on and so forth. So start paying attention to when you are mindlessly picking up your phone. That does not mean that you can't be on the phone. It just means you're going to be more aware and know why you're picking up your phone. Not because you're bored, not because you want to kill time in the grocery line, not because you're tired and want to ignore your parents. You have a real reason for being on social media. And maybe that means that you do want to spend 20 minutes scrolling mindlessly. That's fine. Set your alarm on your phone, scroll for your mindless 20 minutes, and then when the alarm goes off, get back and be on your purposeful life tasks, putting your phone away. Remember our goal setting episode back we were talking about making a list of things to do backwards from your goal? Pretty sure you could be working on that list. And if you did it the way we talked about, you got a lot of work to do. So until you can tell me that you haven't picked up your phone in a week, you cannot tell me you're too busy. Yes, I hear this from dancers all the time. I'm so busy. I don't have time to do my exercises. I get it. Like I said, guys, I'm busy too. And you know what? Your parents are super busy. I have 10 projects in the air right now, plus a full-time job, plus a full-time family, and a full-time boyfriend, and friends, and I need a lot of sleep. The only way I get to do all of these things is by scheduling my time a little bit better and sacrificing something. And for me, that's the mindless scrolling on Instagram that doesn't get me anywhere. So I've been pretty blunt in talking about your phone time so far. And if it seems like, geez, it's just a phone, You're right. It totally is. And you get to decide how you spend your time in life. But if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because you want to see some type of improvement in your dance life or in your child's dance experience. So this bluntness comes from love. Your phone is not the devil. It's not the end of the world, but it could be a tool that you use to harness for the betterment of your life, or it could be the breakdown. So whether you're a kid, a parent, or just an adult trying to pay rent, I'm trying to lay out some of the things that have worked for me in my own life and mistakes I've made and things that I'm seeing with the dancers I work with right now. So now we've talked about ways to physically control your phone and social media just a little bit. Let's dive more into the experience of Instagram and how you can curate this for yourself. So number 4 is, what is your Explorer page telling you? A nice way that you can see if you are mindlessly scrolling and interacting with things on your Instagram that you don't need to be is by looking at your Explorer page. Open up your Explorer page and look at the majority of your content that is on there. If more than 25% of what you see are things that you're not generally interested in, then yes, you're wasting time interacting and using energy on things on social media that don't matter to you. For example, when I open up my Instagram right now, I would see a ton of dance, fitness exercises, and carbs. I interact with a lot of dancers on Instagram and a lot of trainers and coaches. So that makes sense that that would be on my Explorer page. I also love to give myself 5 minutes at the end of the day to watch chefs make food. I love it. I like to say to my boyfriend when he asks me what I'm doing, I say, I'm watching carbs. I love it. At other times in the past, I was really into house projects. I was redoing my kitchen and I was looking at a lot of design stuff. So that stuff is popping up on my Instagram. For another while, I was looking at woodworking things. That's a hobby I've decided to kind of put on hold, but that's a deep love I have. I love live wood edge tables and wall hangings and things like that. So you would see on my Instagram Explore page that it looks like dancers, trainers, and whatever hobby I'm choosing to look at the time. One time I watched a video or a stream of dog videos, because who doesn't like a dog? But from there on out, my Explorer page had tons of puppy dogs. I love a puppy dog. Yes, I want them. I love to cuddle them. They're so soft. I need them in my life. But I do not need to see them on my Instagram on the regular. That is a waste of time for me. If you love puppies and it makes you a happier person to walk out into the world and be a better person, you should have puppies on your Instagram Explorer page. For me, watching puppies doesn't make me a better person. Watching people train and learn how to better work with dancers, that makes me a better person and a little bit of carbs right now. So if you want to make changes in your Explorer page, this will happen over time, but you really need to be conscious of the things you're engaging with. The things you comment on or spend time watching, Instagram will think that you like it. So this is the mindless part. Be aware of what you're looking at. And if you find yourself going, why am I looking at this? Actively don't look at that stuff and choose to look at the things that bring you joy and things that will make you walk away with your cup full instead of being like, how did I waste my time watching puppy dogs? Cute, but it was wasting my time. Number 5, are you following too many people? How many people can you really keep up with? I've read studies with slightly different numbers. So let's say you can only have 5 true best friends. Now, don't quote me on that number, but that's a small number, right? It doesn't mean that my circle of friends is not bigger or that the circle of community is not bigger in normal life, but the number of people that I can truly connect with on a deep level is very small. So when you're looking at your Instagram, how many people are you following? Is it a couple hundred or is it into the thousands? If you're following over a couple hundred people, guarantee Instagram is not showing you all those people's posts and feeds. It's part of the algorithm. If you follow over, let's say, 500 people, there is no physical way that you are going to be able to keep up with all those people, nor should you. Something I realized when I started building my business on Instagram was that I started following athletes and dancers who inspired me or that I wanted to connect with. And I started to feel like I knew these people because I was seeing them and the way that they portrayed their life on Instagram. It's a funny sensation when you show up to a show and you realize that you know this dancer without ever having met them. This is the first time in history that this could happen on such a wide scale. Before the boom of social media, only a select small percentage of people in the world would have such fame or celebrity. You would know exactly who a celebrity is without having had met them, and you would feel like you knew some intimate detail about them because they were a celebrity. But now, because of social media, you can know who someone is to a certain level without ever having met them. So, my suggestion for curating a social media experience that makes you feel fulfilled, happy, and like a good human being is to clean up who you follow. You can choose a number, but I really think if you're following more than about 500 people, there's no way you're going to be able to keep up with all those people. I still have people who pop up as I'm deleting a person. It makes room in the algorithm for me to see a new one, and that person pops up and I'm like, who is this? And at this point, I delete them. It's okay. There's another side to this, and it's a little bit of guilt. It's so bizarre that we feel guilty for choosing what we see and how we shape our day by what we see. If we're talking about your mom or your sister, yes, maybe you have to follow them. But if you're talking about a friend that you haven't seen in years, you guys don't talk, and you really don't know what's going on in each other's lives except for what's on social media, I think it's okay to delete them. Remember that everything is a season, and what is serving you today on social media is going to change from time to time. And just like my woodworking projects, I want to see lots of woodworking, but not right now. Let's also remember, as we're working to decide who we're going to follow, that we are getting snippets of people's lives. I feel like this is becoming more common knowledge that what you see on social media or Instagram is not the whole truth. But let me be another one to remind you that you are only seeing the best of best times of these people's lives. My next tip is to use the save button on your Instagram. There's a little button in the bottom right corner of each post, and it allows you to save the post there. When Instagram did this, it was revolutionary in my mind. I no longer had to follow accounts because I wanted to remember that one post that they did. I was able to bookmark something that spiked my interest, and I didn't have to see it every single day. I don't need to be buying point shoes anymore, so I don't need to be following dance stores on Instagram. But I do want to be able to remember who they are, where they are, maybe if they're having a special so I can pass it on to you guys. But I don't need to be following the whole account. So now I can just bookmark and remember where, oh yeah, that store had point shoes. It's right here in California. Number 7 is when to mute and when to unfollow. We just talked a little bit about not feeling shameful of unfollowing someone. First, it's your choice, it's your life, and you are curating the images and people, relationships, and words that you want into your space. You do have control over that. So why would you be following or let someone follow you that doesn't go with your life vibe? I follow a lot of dancers, and I have unfollowed a lot of dancers. Just because somebody has a beautiful photo that spiked my interest at first doesn't mean that I quite vibe with what they're putting out on social media. I want to be very aware of the type of people that I'm responding, communicating with, and that also I'm reposting to you guys. I want to keep tabs on my clients that I'm currently seeing because I want to see what they're dealing with day to day, week to week, and I want to see what their pictures look like because their pictures are going to assist me and us to increase their technique and become better and get better exercises for them to do. When a client stops coming into me, I tend to unfollow them. It's not because I don't like them as a person, but they're not investing their time with me currently, and my attention gets to go to someone else. And remember, we don't have enough attention and commitment to every single person that we run into on the street. So I'm choosing to put my energy into the people that I'm currently working with in my studio. Now, another amazing thing Instagram came up with was the mute button. Mute has changed my life because there are people in my life that it wouldn't serve me to unfollow. That's more drama than I want. Or maybe there's just something in life right now that they're posting about that's triggering me in this point in my life. Let me tell you a couple examples. Let's say that I just auditioned for my dream company and my friend Jane also auditioned. I didn't end up getting the part and she did. I'm so happy and supporting of Jane, but every time I see her posts and about how excited she is for her new roles, I feel myself getting angry. We talked about how to deal with not getting the role you want, having disappointments, and not reaching your goals in a prior episode in goal setting. That's a process that we have to master, and it's going to come up time and time again on Instagram, social media, interactions, life events that happen to you. But sometimes there are things that are just triggering to your mental health at this moment. It would serve you not to see that in your face every single day. Remember, you are curating your life. You are choosing what you see and what is going to build you up. So if it's not going to serve you to see Jane doing the lead role that you would have liked to do, maybe for now, give her a mute and come back to her later. A more adult example, let's pretend that I had a miscarriage and I was dealing with the emotions and everything that comes with that situation. It might be triggering and hurt myself to see other people going through their pregnancies or having babies or sharing about their joys. It doesn't mean that I'm not happy for my friend. It doesn't mean that I don't want to be their friend. It just means that right now, those images and stories that are coming into my life don't serve me. To be clear, in either situation, if I ran into these people in real life, I would be thrilled and ecstatic for them and their opportunities. It's not that I'm muting them because I don't like them. I'm muting them because it doesn't serve me to become a better person in the privacy of my own home. If I met those people in real life and I didn't like them, or I didn't like the way they made me feel, or I didn't want to interact with them, for me, that means it's an unfollow. Now, the last option we have on social media is the block button. I do not hesitate to use this, and I know and aspire to be like some people in my life who use the block button often. The block button in my life is used for those people who come onto my page, my carefully curated, joyful, inspiring page, and trash me. These are people that come on and say negative comments about dancers in my images, exercises that I'm doing, talk about all the things that are bad and nothing that is good. Now, I'm always open to a conversation about why I chose a certain exercise, and you may have a different opinion as to what is a good exercise or a bad exercise. That's totally fine. It's not fine for you to come in and say that that dancer doesn't know what they're doing, or I don't know what I'm doing, or how could you do this? How could you do that? Why would you say this? You share too much. You share not enough. These are all people that consistently come into my world, my little living room of a space, and push me down. My guideline for this is if it is a blatantly rude, negative, condescending comment, I'll direct message them once in private and say something like, thank you for your feedback. I'm always open to hear different opinions, but please remember that in the future, these people you're commenting about are real people and they do not deserve your quick judgments of what you see. Remember that everything is a process and you're only seeing one quick second of a progression of their life. So in the future, if you have something you'd like to discuss, please direct message me. Most people come back and say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't realize that what I was saying would be taken that way. I love your Instagram. I love what you do. Keep doing it. Thank you. Some people, though, come back and they are snarky and they are rude. They tell me I don't know what I'm doing and I block them. Don't get me wrong. I know at the deepest level of my existence that I do not know everything. In fact, I probably don't know most things. But What I do know is that I work to seek information, to share knowledge, and to improve my small corner of the world while leaving the door open for me to learn more. Also, social media is like my house. If you come in to my page, you are stepping into my house. If you don't have something nice to say to the host, you can leave or don't say anything at all. You don't have to be on my page. If you don't like the exercise I post, you can go find one of hundreds of other people who post exercises. If you don't like the dancer I chose to highlight, you can literally find thousands of other dancers being posted on other people's pages. I am very lucky to have such a supportive collective and tribe of people who follow me on Instagram. And I never would have imagined that I would be using this platform the way that I do. But now that I do, I am so grateful. It has connected me with people I would have never been able to connect with. I've learned more about dance education than I could have done on my own. I've gotten to hear hundreds and hundreds of stories of people fighting to get their job, their passion, the opportunity that they're working so hard for. And this truly inspires me. This is what drives me to keep going with what I do. So if you come into my house, you're choosing to be in my bubble of existence. And if it's not for you, please leave. That's fine. There is no way that every single person can like me. And it's impossible for me to like every single person. That doesn't mean that I hate them, and it doesn't mean that I'm rude to them. It just means that we don't quite jive at this moment. There are lots of social media accounts for dancers and athletes that show exercises that I don't like. It's plain and simple. There are things I don't believe that are safe, or things that I don't like the way people show them, or I think they're too advanced for what they're doing. But I have never and will never object my opinion without being asked. If somebody reached out to me and said, "What do you think of this exercise?" And if it was something that I didn't personally like, I would say very kindly and turn it into a question. "Why did you choose to do this exercise? I'm curious." And it would open a dialogue, because there is a strong possibility that there's something that I'm not seeing and that I don't know. And I only would know if I asked, but only when they ask. Their house, their rules. I don't like what they post. I don't follow them. And you know what, guys? I don't. It's that simple. I am curating what I want to see on Instagram. That's not selfish. That's not rude. It's taking care of yourself. Number 8 leads us into, if you are looking to feel inspired by your feed, you have to find feeds that represent who you are and who you want to be. There are fitness feeds that look phenomenal. The color schemes are great. Their bodies look fit. They always look happy. But I don't always connect with some of them. There's something that just doesn't resonate with who I am. Does it make it bad? No, not at all. Does it mean you can't connect with them? No, not at all. So ask yourself this. Does each image that comes up on your feed make you feel the best version of yourself? You don't have to be the best version today, but it has to inspire you to be the best. If the answer is no, if you find yourself going, "Oh man, I wish I had those legs. I'm never going to look like that. Feels like I work so hard and I never get that." Those are mental blocks and thoughts that you don't need to marinate on. You don't need to be looking at images or people that for some reason make you feel that way. And that has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with you. So if you are curating your experience, don't follow that person. It's on you. It has nothing to do with them. No matter how beautiful their feed looks or how beautiful their feet look, how popular they are, if it doesn't make you feel like you're your best self, don't follow them. Give this a try for 1 month. You can always go back and follow them again, but I think you're going to find that as you start to collect people who truly inspire you, you're going to have more positive experience on social media. You're going to reach your goals quicker, and you're going to find that you actually feel like you're a better person in your life and in this world. Which leads me into number 9. You get out what you put in. What you put out into the world is going to come right back to you. It's the law of attraction. It's proven that the energy with the emotions and feelings that you put out into the world all have a different energy, vibration, or sound. What you put out, that energy you emit goes out into the world and comes right back to you with a like energy. So if you want to create a community of go-getting, authentic, supportive friends, you have to be that person. That comes down to what you portray on Instagram. So go through your feed and remember what you were feeling when you took that picture. You don't have to tell anyone, but were you honestly feeling what you portrayed? I know there have been times where I've had to take a picture and I am not feeling happy about it. I have had other things on my mind, or I don't feel beautiful, or there's things going on in life that don't make me want to smile. And I take the picture and I remember exactly what I felt when I was taking that picture. That's a feeling I didn't like. I don't want that to be my Instagram or any collection of photos that I keep. So now I personally don't take photos if I don't feel like taking a photo. And I definitely don't post a photo if I don't feel like it represents who I am and who I want to be. So this is a way that you can go through your photos and start to really pay attention to what were you feeling? What are you putting out there? What are you attracting back to you by the photos that you're putting onto your social media? I truly think that deep down, all of us just want to be accepted for who we are, for the loves and passions we have, for the hard times and downfalls, and for our successes and trials. So if that's what you crave, get real with what you're posting. Which takes me into my last point, and maybe my most passionate point for creating a social media experience that uplifts and fills your cup. And that is the simple words of keyboard bullying. We've all experienced some form of keyboard bullying in our life. And I hope and pray that you have not been the target of a keyboard bully. But if you have, I am here for you. It may be one of my hottest topics right now, as I spend a considerable amount of time working to make my online living room a welcoming one. You would think that the worst offenders are the kids, but in my experience, the adults are the worst. So let's quickly talk about what keyboard bullying is. This would be somebody saying something from the privacy of their home onto a social media account or email that they would not dare say to your face in person. This can range from inappropriate comments to body image remarks, degrading comments, simply putting somebody down, or trying to make them feel like they are better than themselves. This is a new problem in our world that arose with social media. I find that most of the time, the style of bullying is being done by strangers who don't quite realize the repercussions. Remember when I said earlier that some people have said some rude comments on my page and I direct message them privately, and most of them ended up saying, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize what I was saying," so on and so forth. My hope is that they will think closer next time when typing, and they'll remember me kindly pointing out that what they were talking about or who they were talking about was a real person. Some people, though, will continue to talk like that. Because we have more images and information available than ever before, it gives everyone the feeling and entitlement that they, quote, know. They know better than you. They know better than the professor, the teacher, the doctor, the person who spent their entire life becoming an expert, or they even know what you are feeling better than you. When this happens to you, remember that you are curating your life and experience on social media. If they are being hurtful, block them. If you've told them in a similar manner to how I did above, and they are still coming at you and they're not letting up, block them. A stranger says something inappropriate, block them. I have blocked so many accounts that don't feel right. You guys know what I mean when that happens. This is a great reason to keep your social media account private. You are in more control. That's the bottom line. I have a private account that only has 50 or so people following it. And remember when I said I can't keep up with hundreds of people? I can barely keep up with my 50 closest friends and family. By keeping this account private, I feel much more in control. I enjoy sharing little things in my life, and I don't have to worry about weird randos coming down on me. I do on occasion employ the mute button for short periods of time if something is not in my best mental health interest, but I'm back in loving that person when I feel better and more mentally equipped. Unless you're running a business, keeping your Instagram private is very acceptable, and I recommend it personally. Remember, the gram can be a place for you to build yourself up, but it quickly becomes a place that you can lose control. You have less control over who's coming onto your page, who's commenting, what images are popping up, if it's beating you down or you're turning into the not enough game. So what have I been saying? You are in control. You curate your life on and off Instagram. Private might be the way to go. Now, remember all those cyber keyboard bullies? It sucks to have them turned on you. And you feel bad for those who are being attacked, right? Can we quickly turn the tables and make sure that we are not being one of them? I can say with great confidence that most of my Align Fitness tribe is uplifting and caring, but let's do a double check with ourselves. Do you ever think when you see a certain image or writing to someone, oh my God, why would she post that? Her foot, her arm, her leg, etc. Ugh, I can't believe that's not very good. She wouldn't, I don't know why she posts that. My friends, this is where it all starts. Remember that life is a series of snapshots and you are only seeing one of them. Start paying attention to your thoughts. Have you ever come to the defense of someone and felt you're in the right, but instead defending them, you ended up calling a name, calling them a bad person, or even insulting the person you're trying to defend? I see this happening often. I recommend always starting off my sentences with I feel, in my opinion, and then making sure that I speak from an accountable space. This one's a good one. Have you ever added your opinion to a post that has hundreds or thousands of comments saying the exact same thing? Like, gross, how could you let someone do that? That person should be in jail. There are many Instagram accounts that post things like this for shock factor. They count on people like you to be outraged and then post it and forward it because it's so bad. Although it took me a second to figure out this trend, I now brush those off, skim past, and do not comment. For me to comment would be me giving them my energy and showing people that I like shock-worthy things and to hate on other people. And I'm going to leave you with one very real example that has taught me a lot. Because we're in the dance world, it's going to happen. I work with very skinny dancers once in a while. Just like I work with tall, short, no muscles, lots of muscles, bendy feet, strong-thighed dancers. You all come to me and trust me to assist you to be better, whatever that means to you and I. I've had it happen many times that I've posted a video of a dancer working beautifully. They're showing great progress, and I always talk about what they're working on. You will never see me say, perfect, there's nothing to improve. I always work to use it as a learning opportunity, and the dancer has agreed to be posted also. I had a dancer who had a sickness, not an eating disorder, and was very skinny. I posted a photo of her working out, and I got bombarded while I was in Mexico with the worst well-meaning dancers and parents commenting on this photo. They were talking about how I shouldn't be promoting eating disorders, and I shouldn't be working with dancers who are so skinny, and I shouldn't be posting that. Comment after comment about how this girl looked. Guys, I was livid. This was a dancer who had worked her butt off to overcome odds, was one of my strongest dancers at the time, did her homework, and ate. But most of all, somehow, the parents and kids that probably wouldn't say anything about a dancer that had some extra weight on them was full on attack mode with this dancer. Not to mention that I was on vacation in Mexico and it was just a feeling that I had to check my Instagram. Because remember earlier, I talked about boundaries. Vacation is one of my boundaries. I had missed a few hours of comments and it was making me sick to my stomach. I quickly disabled the comments and tried to let it go. I ended up making a story when I got home addressing this, and it is to this day one of my most viewed and responded to stories. So this is what I will never forget. I will never forget my sinking feeling for that little girl. I will never forget the hope that she did not see those comments before I could take them down. And I will never forget how much my followers thought they were helping. So please, for me, take a moment and in the future, think if you've ever unintentionally had an incident like this. I believe that you and I and humankind are inherently good and that no one would mean to do what happened in that story. One of my favorite sayings is, we get to be the change we wish to see in the world. And sometimes I'm itching to say something, but I'm working on and inviting you to join me in taking a beat and asking, what good will it do? Just that simple question. What good will my comment do? I don't believe there's a neutral comment. I believe that your comment will either do good or bad. And I know that we all want our comments to do good and that you want good coming towards you. Now, if you found a chunk of this episode helpful, start right here and share this episode on Instagram, text it to another dance mom, and let's make a difference in someone else's life. Somebody needs to hear some of these words. You can also make a difference by writing a review on iTunes. I know it sounds weird and like I'm asking for you to puff me up, but people decide what they're going to listen to by their reviews. This podcast is not sponsored. It comes actually out of my pocket with money. It actually costs me money to produce this. And I just want to assist you guys to have better information and resources to be happy, healthy dancers. This is one area that I think social media rocks. The sharing of information that can make a difference in someone's life is so profound when we harness this power for good. So thank you for making a difference in my life. You truly do. I love your DMs telling me how an exercise helped or what you've learned from the podcast. And before you go, I'm going to share with you something that I love and a little secret to the Instagram world. I had someone message me asking how they could thank me for my help. This is the thing I love because it's so simple. You can thank me or anyone on Instagram that you love their content from by simply engaging. Instagram algorithm has recently decided it will only show you the things that you engage with. So if, for instance, you like my Aligned Fitness by Ali page, but you don't like the images, comment on them, share posts, Instagram will decide that you do not like my content and it will not show it to you. So if you want to curate your Instagram experience and walk away motivated and your best self, this is a simple way for you to take control back. Every time you see a post from an account you love, like or comment on it. Just that, and you'll be in the driver's seat. And my tips will be shown to you in your feed and also dancers just like you that want to improve and be their best selves. So thank you so much for joining me today and being on this awesome sharing platform. Don't forget to leave a comment right now on iTunes, and I will see you next week on Beyond the Point.